Good afternoon. My name is Alla McCoy. I'm Director of Startup Support at the University of Maryland's Ventures.
Hi there.
And I'm joined. Go ahead, Rob.
I'm sorry. Hi, I'm Rob Cohen. I'm the program manager at Mtech Ventures.
So we would like to extend a very warm welcome to everyone who joined us today for the next installment in Startup Fundamentals Workshop Series, both live webinar audience and those watching a recorded version on our Startup UMD YouTube channel. This workshop series and the YouTube channel is offered and managed by the Ventures and Mtech at the University of Maryland. To everyone attending the live session, please feel free to submit questions using the Q&A function. You should be able to find it usually at the bottom of your screen. We are recording this session. It will be posted on YouTube, so if you would like to remain anonymous, you can do so by pre-clicking the submit this question anonymously. And you can only do it through the Q&A function, not through chat. So you can do that. So welcome everyone. Today we will discuss a very important process. It's a process of how startup companies could get space on our beautiful University of Maryland campus. Before we do that, I wanted to mention that Rob and I run programs at Mtech and at Ventures, and those programs offer services for innovators in either sciences or the humanities who are passionate about their research and would like a low-risk opportunity to transform it into a product or service to benefit the public. The process for starting a company at the University of Maryland is documented on this great website called startupguide.umd.edu. It's basically, it takes you step by step on how do I start a company. This is a high-level typical path that typically startups take. And today we will focus specifically on that yellow square, where we will talk about how to, once you've done your market research, you know you have something there and you formed your company. Now what? Now your company needs an address, your company needs space, somewhere to operate. How do you do that?
So thanks, all, and I'll take the next few slides. When you look at options for startup space, you have choices. And if you want to be in and around the university, one of the key things you can't do is be in your University of Maryland office or lab. This is really important because the researchers at the university have their role at the university, which is to do their research and teach and whatever other university obligations they have, and then running their company is a separate activity that has to be done outside of that space. So for that, there's lots of choices, and you can do this in your garage and home, and lots of people do that. We work startup incubators, accelerators, but here on campus, we have the Raven building, which is on the northeast corner of campus, which is where we house a number of companies. We have the Technology Ventures building, which is just off campus. We'll take a look at those in a second. And then the Quantum Startup Foundry. The two buildings, we have the Raven building. It's we've got about 22,000 square feet of space that's available to the companies. The circle shows where we are. We're to the right is the Clark building. To the bottom of that photo is the Kim building. And we're sort of between the Clark building and Xfinity. It's a little bit off the beaten path, but it's a quiet little corner of campus. We're happy to have you. We have the Technology Ventures building, which is shown on the right. This is just off campus. It's over between the College Park Metro Station and the College Park Airport. And it is the university property, and it's just off campus. And we have a number of our companies there too. Inside the building, we have spaces for our companies, and the spaces vary in their capability and they're equipped how they're equipped, and they roughly follow our offerings. We have the top left corner is a well kitted out biotech company that's here in Raven, and they've got a fume hood, biosafety cabinet, freezers. They have a freezer. They have centrifuge and things you'd expect to find there. We also have some spaces that are open, shown in the top right. We have one that's like this. We have a robotics company in there. The bottom left corner shows a small office that we have. We've got a number of these where we have companies there that are doing computational work. And then on the bottom right, we have a big shared workspace that's just been renovated and newly furnished, which is afforded to all of our companies to use to hold meetings. We host demo days. We do seminars and webinars, seminars there, and various other events. The Mtech Ventures offerings kind of fall into four categories: wet lab, dry lab, office, and the member company. All of these, when a company is in the program, regardless of whether they're which category they fall into, they're afforded all the same rights, responsibilities, and privileges of every other company, which includes the university affiliation. And with that, you get the University of Maryland email address, access to the libraries, access to the software library. And like the rest of us, you get the opportunity to pay for parking. We have access to the I-Core team as well as the program. I-Core is another webinar, but it's all about teaching entrepreneurship to researchers. Numerous mentor programs between Mtech, Ventures, and all the other innovation and entrepreneurship operations on campus. We have operation support where we actually help you with finding a company to do your accounting. Space, obviously, and one of the most important ways to think about this is that this is your company's headquarters. This is your mailing address. This is HQ for your company, and we're happy to have you here.
Now, as we are a large state university, there are rules and regulations on how external companies can actually get access to spaces on campus. So Rabin Building, all of the spaces that Rob discussed, such as Rabin Building, TVB, and QSF, are approved spaces for startup companies to go in. So the process is easier. However, it is possible, but much harder to sometimes get access to other spaces on campus as well for startup companies for a very short period of time. So as this is a big process, so this process is actually governed by a University of Maryland policy signed by University of Maryland president, amended, approved, and it's something that University Senate came up with. You can find the full policy text online if you Google it, or I can send you the link. The process, here's the high-level process. So first, you need to submit what's called facility use application or FUA application. Then there is an intake meeting. So your FUA application has to be approved by, I think it's about 11 signatories from across the university, anywhere from VPR, SR, Provost, OGC. And so for everyone to be able to review your FUA, your application, we hold what we call intake meetings so that representatives from all of the approving organizations can attend in this one online Zoom meeting and ask questions after reviewing your FUA. So we usually spend somewhere between 30 minutes and an hour on these meetings. And then once issues are identified, we are working with you on resolving those issues. So how do you get space on campus? Let's take it step by step, very detailed. So for Rabin or TVB spaces that Rob described, there is an pre-application process. There's a link and a very nice QR code with a little turtle shell there. Thank you, Rob, for creating it. So you would submit an application where you can where you can let them know what type of space you're looking for. Are you looking for a lab? Are you looking for what type of needs do you have? And they'll schedule time with you to see if there's a mutual fit for your company to go into Mtech space and if they have availability. if this is something that your company would be a good fit within the programs as well. There's Quantum Startup Foundry has a separate application process, and so you would contact Quantum Startup Foundry for their application process. But those are fairly straightforward. For any other space that's not already approved for startups, you would first need to identify the space, and you would need to secure verbal agreement from the dean and the department chair who own that space, and get them to verbally agree and participate in the process, and make sure that you would be that the space is actually leasable and they're willing to do that for you. And so your department chair would be your campus sponsor, who would be sponsoring your FUA or your facility use application. So step number 2 was you've identified the space, you know where you're going, it works for you, and the university sponsors or owners are willing and happy to host you. Then you would actually submit your facility use or FUA application. In that application, you would need to talk about potential conflicts of interest, and it's highly, highly recommended that you update or submit your COI application in TERP before you even submit your FUA. But you would need to submit a FUA describing potential conflict of interest that you might have. In that FUA application, you would also need to provide information for SR or environmental safety. You would need to list all of the quantities and quantities of equipment, chemicals, and potential hazardous waste. So you would need to understand what type of needs do you have and what type of equipment you will need, what type of chemicals you will use. You would need to have a designated safety officer and a safety plan. So if you have a lab on campus, university is doing that for you right now, including hazardous waste removal. However, if it's your company, you will have to figure out all of that yourself for your company. However, ESSER will need to review your information and approve it, make sure that everything is compliant, and your employees and you yourself will be safe in your lab. If you don't have a lab and you are only office only, that makes it easier. So there's no need for any of this, but they still would like to make sure that you don't have anything that could be potentially classified as chemicals or equipment and such. Another important portion of your FUA is your business plan. So tell us about what your startup is. How do you plan to grow it? How do you plan to, when do you plan to graduate from our startup space? So this is important to understand that these spaces are for startups. They're not for long-term office or lab use. This is 3 to 5 years or so. And a founder's pledge is part of your facility use application. And facility use application, by the way, is submitted in Quali, and your sponsor will submit it for you on your behalf. Next step would be to schedule, and I will take care of that, schedule FUA intake meeting. We usually meet Mondays. It's reserved in everybody's schedule to the 3 p.m. And you will be given a choice of several Mondays that you can pick when you're available. And everybody who is responsible for reviewing and approving your facility use application will be there, and they will review all of the materials that you submitted via your FUA in Quali, and they will come and they will be asking additional questions or stating that they have no questions and no issues. During that meeting, we will also identify what issues remain to be completed before your FUA can be approved. Most common outstanding items are conflicts of interest. management plans, and also SR safety related items. So these are the biggest items that we see that are not complete at application time, which is fine. You will be given guidance and opportunity to complete them, but if you come prepared, it's going to expedite the process tremendously. And then once your facility use application is ready and there are no outstanding issues, your management plan is approved and SR is happy with your safety plans and your chemicals list and everything's ready to go. The facility use application is approved by those 11 signatories digitally. You don't have to run around campus with a piece of paper collecting those signatures. Quali asks for those. And if it gets stuck somewhere, Rob and I are there to ask people to please approve them. And once everything is approved and the final signature is collected, then your FUA is approved and we move into facility use license or FUL process. So lease, whenever you lease space at the university, it's called a license. So you license space and it's called facility use license or FUL. So company and University of Maryland will sign an FUL agreement. This agreement is for 1 year. And if you would like to remain in that space for additional year, you would need to submit a renewal via FUL. And again, you would work with your sponsor to submit that via quality. Typically, we limit stays to 3 to 4 years, depending on what your industry is, depending on what your company is doing. It's case by case basis. Companies don't get kicked out automatically after 3 or 4 years. But we typically don't want to see companies staying here for as a long-term solution. And the renewals go through a similar process as the original FUA. It's usually faster, especially if you don't have any conflicts of interest or you already have your management plans signed and approved. Makes it so much faster.
Thanks, Alla. That was a lot of stuff. Some things to think about when we think about best practices, and even in this context of renewals, there's best practices that happen there. And one of the things that we do in the program with companies that are working with us is we meet with them regularly. And when it comes time for renewals, there's no surprises. We know how things are going, and that's one of the keys is to these best practices is everything we do is done with a conversation. We talk. We're part of the program. We meet regularly. We understand how things are going for you, the company, what help you need, how we can help you, and how we're going to keep you on your path to success. Some of the best practices, these are some lessons learned. We've talked for a while already this afternoon about Mtech Ventures and QSF are set up for startups. The process is easier. Generally speaking, if you're going into one of these spaces, we'll get you there. It can be more tricky if you want to be in a different spot on campus, as Alla spoke about. We'll say it again, and we get this question all the time. The startup can't go in your lab or office, and we just leave it there. Anything that's not Mtech or QSF applications invites attention from both the provost and the vice president of research, and it's important to have these conversations. And the next one that we have to talk about, we said it before, we'll say it again, submit your COI disclosure early. COIs can be hard and complicated, and when you have faculty members and people starting companies that are really good at what they do, they have a lot going on, and we have to make sure that that's all disclosed. And the university has a process for doing that. They've got really sharp people that help us get through that, but it can take a long time. So get that going early. And then obviously safety. And if you're doing work in a lab, you're already aware of the university's safety, but it applies to the company spaces also. One of the things that we often talk about with these young companies and these researchers are, I have a grant, and this grant allowed me to buy this piece of equipment, and I need it for my company. Why can't I just use the one I have in my lab? Well, the answer when you say it like that, the answer is, well, it was paid for by the grant, not for a for-profit entity. So, well, so my company has to buy another one? Well, no, or maybe. And there are paths in which that these expensive pieces of equipment can be made available to the company. And one of the ways you can do that is through the MIPS program. Maryland Industrial Partnerships is a really cool program. It's run out of the Mtech office. It's funded by the state. This is a path where startup companies or companies can propose research projects with university faculty. And there's some cost sharing and money gets put up, and that becomes a research project that can operate in a laboratory doing work for the company. And it's a really cool program. Obviously, SBIR, STTRs, subawards can be given to laboratories on campus. There's subawards that can be done under other grant funding. A sponsored research project where the company has a research contract with the university and says we want to do some work, and we want to work with this researcher to do this work, and we're going to pay for it out of our pocket or some other way, and that becomes a conversation. But the thing that's key here is that the university, the PI, the university researcher, who's the university researcher who often started the company, really needs to pick a side. Is he or she going to be the PI at a laboratory, or is he going to be the CEO of the company? And if you try to do both, you've just uncovered the conflict of interest problem. You got to be one or the other. One of the cool things about the university is they have these core facilities. Many universities do this, and Maryland is no different in this regard. And these are facilities, facilities on campus where you, a researcher, as faculty, or you as a company can come to them and they'll do work for you or do work with you. And there's a whole list of them here. They're outlined on the website here at Core Facilities. And things like if you're in the biotech space and you need a specialized piece of equipment for a half a day, that might cost $40,000 or $50,000. Well, you don't want to buy that, but you can work with the folks at Bio Workshop, and you, after you've been trained, can go over there and use that piece of equipment. You make a reservation for it. You can go over there and for half a day do your work. And instead of being a $40,000 piece of equipment, you can do that for $400 or whatever their price. They have a price schedule on their website. This is a really cool way to be able to use these really fancy, expensive pieces of equipment without having to own them. And the university likes it. The university likes keeping these startup companies close and using their facilities and working with them. And this is really cool. This is a really good thing. This is a really cool thing for us to do. As you march down your path as a young company, one of the things to keep in mind is what do I need for equipment? This becomes part of your budgeting and all the other things that have to happen. And these are really cool facilities. As we think about what we do in supporting you as your young companies on your entrepreneurial journey, it's really important to think of us, and I say us, I use Alla and me as the us, but the university has a rich ecosystem of people that are here to support you. We want you to do great. We want you to get your next thing. We want you to be the next unicorn. We want you to move out of the Raven building in 4 years and go across the street to the Discovery District and hire 20 or 30 or 100 people and have this fantastic exit and all these other things. So we're here to support you to help you do that. We have a set of rules that we have to navigate in, and that's why you work with experts who have been doing this for a while and know how to navigate these and know who to talk to get the issues resolved, to get them moved through and to help you be on your way. I think we have one more slide which just says that we're moving fearlessly forward and we're happy to do it together. And those are all the remarks both Alla and I have, and we're happy to talk about some questions.
Yeah, thank you, Rob. One important thing I'd like to highlight here is that all of these core facilities, it's for equipment use only. None of these can be your company's address. So this is just for equipment use. If your company needs an address, then it could be, and it has to be on campus. It would need to be either at the Raven building, TVB, QSF. It could be in your garage, as Rob mentioned earlier. It could be your house, your garage. It could be another incubator in the state of Maryland or somewhere else. But it's important that you, and I also wanted to make a point too that because it's a question that comes up very often is your company can be incorporated as a Delaware company or a Maryland company or anywhere else. That's different from where your company is headquartered or located or operating out of. So incorporation in what state, that's a separate question. What TVB, Rabin, and QSF and other spaces on campus offer is where your company can be headquartered and where you would be operating out of and your business address. And then there's also an opportunity to use facilities and equipment here on campus. And by the way, if you are located in TVB, nothing stops you from using all of these facilities as well. And you can visit the website for a full list of all of these facilities. I see there's a question. Are there computational resources included in this list? Cluster time. Do you know, Rob, if there is?
So there's no specific call out for computational resources. The university doesn't make cluster time just generally available. There's more to be done there to answer that question completely. I'm happy to take that if you want to drop me a note and we'll have a long conversation about it. A lot of accelerator incubator programs offer AWS credits. And I think we can do that. There's a way for us to do that. Is that true, Alla?
Yeah, we can offer AWS credits.
So it's not quite a great answer, but it's a partial answer.
Yeah, thank you. And you can go on that link or just Google UMD core facilities, and there's a long list of facilities that are offered. They're offered to any company at a published list price, so they're not free. However, they are available without this FUA process. Another question we have here, and the reason I stopped on this slide is, was the management plan explained in a previous slide? So when we refer to management plan, we refer to the conflict of interest management plan. Tomorrow, we have a workshop on conflicts of interest at UMD. So if you are interested, you have questions about it, you should attend that workshop. Let me know if you need a link to sign up. It's a free webinar. Anybody can attend, same as this one. But basically, when everybody on campus, including us, Rob and I, we are required to submit a conflict of interest disclosure. You are required to submit a conflict and update your conflict of interest disclosure as a researcher before you can submit any grant application. And if the conflict of interest committee determines that there is they may issue a statement, you don't have a conflict, in which way you are free to do to proceed with your activity. However, if there is potential or perceived conflict of interest that is found, then they will put together a management plan, which will outline how to avoid how this conflict of interest could be managed and avoided. So that's when I am referring to when I say conflict of interest management plan. Not everybody will have them, only if there is a potential conflict of interest. That's when you will have a management plan. Does that answer your question? And if so, let's move on to the next. Can a recent graduate request access to use the facilities? The answer is yes. If I applied during my final term, may I continue using them after graduation? Additionally, what are the policies regarding facility access for postdoctoral researchers? Rob, do you want to take that?
Sure. So the facilities, the core facilities, I think that's what you're referring to, are available to anyone. And that's not just university affiliation, right? It could be, Fred off the street wants to do some experiment and, does the proper trainings. Those facilities are available. It makes reservation, uses them. So I think the distinction between a recent graduate student, and a postdoc, those kind of all evaporate. Those facilities are available. So find the website, find the person you want to talk to, get on their calendar, understand the trainings, understand their cost schedule. What I will say is the prices are different for a researcher at the university in a lab that used to use a specialized piece of equipment. So I'm in a lab as a postdoc or a grad student, and I need to do an experiment, and I want to use something in one of these core facilities. I pay a price. If I'm a startup company, I pay a different price. So I just want to make that clear. But they're all available. And again, the lab directors, the people that run these core facilities, they're happy to work with you. Call them up.
Yeah, thank you. I think we answered that. Are there any other questions that we can answer? So if anything, I'd like to highlight that when you form a company, and even if you are a student or a researcher here, you're a professor, your company becomes a separate entity. So your startup company is treated as any other outside company. So it cannot go into your lab or office next door, even though that office might be empty and the lab might be sitting there, and there might be some time that you think you could use. That is a conflict of interest. If you think that there is a facility available in the building, you should first discuss it with the department chair or the dean who owns that facility to see if they could potentially host your startup company there. But that's the process I outlined already. And to expedite the process, please make sure your COI is submitted, updated. That's really important. And also start the process early. If you have a company where you think the company will need its own space in 6 months, submit that application today because it takes time. Any other questions? And thank you. Rob posted a link to register for tomorrow's conflict of interest workshop. So that workshop will specifically discuss COI. The question is, are we going to post this video on our YouTube channel? We will, and you will be able to review it there. The question, are these spaces available for any fee or free to use?
They're for free. They're for a fee. They're not for free. So Mtech Ventures becomes your landlord, among other things, and that is you pay us rent, and we don't take equity, and that's all by design. We want a very clean transactional relationship in that regard. And a way to think of us is in the program, the Mtech Ventures program, we support you in everything we do. And a way to think of Mtech Ventures is that we are a non-voting board member. So we have an advisory role. We'll work with you as much or as little as you need. Do you need support on, you need a graphic artist to develop a logo. You need a lawyer, a tax accountant. You need an IP attorney. The only thing we really won't help you with is your technology, because you have forgotten more about that than we'll ever know. But all the other aspects of getting a company going, we can help you with. We've done this a lot. Myself personally, I've done it a lot. And then we as a program have done it a lot. And if you want to, happy to talk about it anytime. It doesn't have to be in this forum or from this video.
Yeah, thank you. And also important to point out is that the price, the price is the same whether or not you are student or faculty here or outside company, because otherwise it would be a conflict of interest. Any other questions? Okay, we have one more. Might not be quite related, but could someone outline the relationship between Mtech Ventures and Ventures? We are so we operate under different units on campus. So Ventures is under the Division of Research, and Mtech is under the School of Engineering. However, we have a very good relationship, and we offer complementary services and work closely. Think of us as your team that offers services and assistance as you grow your company. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I would only offer, don't think of us as operating in different parts of the university. From company's perspective, we are on your team, end of conversation. Let Alla and me manage the differences in which reporting tree we're in. It should be invisible to you.
Yeah, but we work very closely together,
Yeah.
and we talk daily, multiple times a day, and coordinate everything that we do. All right, well, if there are no more questions, we can close out this session. You can think of any other questions, please feel free to email Rob or I after this. We're always happy to meet with researchers and startups and answer additional questions. And the question is, can you share the slide via email? The answer is yes. So if you could email us and let us know you'd like a copy of the slides, we'll do that, and we'll also post it on our Startup UMD YouTube channel, which you should follow, and that way you'll get notifications every time that we upload a new video. And let us know how we did, and if there are any additional sessions that we should plan. All right, thank you. Thank you, Rob, and thank you to everyone who came and asked lots of great questions.